Genius for life. Coconut smoothies coming at you.
All right, welcome to episode 22 of 15 Minutes of Genius. We're just grateful to be here in this amazing studio. This is Manhattan Beach Studios in the beautiful city of Manhattan Beach. Big plug to Mark Nicholas, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy, the dude, the Big Lebowski dude. He is the king of the castle in this region, in this studio. Manhattan Beach Studios, he is amazing. So again, if you ever want to contact him, Mark N at manhattanbeachstudios.net for photos, video, editing, whatever you want. And by the way, this show is really about just bringing on kick-ass entrepreneurs, people that are in this industry that are really making a difference and bringing great brands into the stores. And that leads me to like a nice segue to my guest, Czar Daniolco. He is the founder and COO of High Touch Distribution. They are a premier DSD service here in Southern California, Arizona, and Nevada. My sheet here is two-sided. That's how this guy's been in the industry a long time. He's, as I mentioned, the founder and COO of High Touch. He also was with Greenshoots before, Senior Director of Sales and Operations. He was with Odwalla and Coca-Cola as an account manager for the West Coast. Just goes on and on. He was with Mother's Market in grocery. I think that's really where he kind of rose in the ranks and really learned about the business. Mother's Market is right over there in Manhattan Beach, across the street. And then he was also in grocery at Whole Foods with a humble beginning. He's been in the business for 25 years. So pretty amazing resume. Czar, how's it going, my man?
It's going well, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I don't have any scripted questions. Again, I'm living dangerously on these shows because I figure we'll have enough content to talk about with the show. So, and just a big shout out to the High Touch team. High Touch carries our product Genius Juice among many other amazing premier brands. You guys are doing a freaking fantastic job on distributing us to Whole Foods, Mother's Market, Bristol, these great accounts. So thanks, man. Your team is working really hard out there, and just want to give a big shout out to them.
Oh, you're welcome. And like I said, we're glad to have you. We've seen you grow from humble beginnings as well. And in fact, I was looking around in my office for some of the old bottles, and I can't find them, but I had the little square ones, the little cute ones. You had flavored ones, I remember from the early days. So, as fast as time has gone by, it's kind of cool to sit back and think about, these early relationships and some of the fun we've had, and then some of the challenges too, man. Right? I mean, we've had great, fun conversations. We've had some tough conversations. There's been a lot of transitions and, adaptation. Just with you being an entrepreneur in the beverage business, it's I think this was your first beverage brand and really first entry into like kind of the CPG world, right? So I think you were coming into it, you were pretty gun ho, and like I said, it's we've been doing business together, but it's also been cool just as a fan. I mean, obviously we love the product, we drink it, it's a staple in my fridge at home, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been fun to kind of sit back and watch the brand grow and watch you grow as well. So again, thanks for having us on.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. And it's great, as we talk about, I mean, this can be a whole episode just about High Touch and Genius and the partnership, right? And really supporting us and helping us grow and getting through all the tough times. And then we're in great times now. So you guys are real, true partners. So let's roll into it here because you have so much experience. And I really wanted to also touch on too, like just getting into Whole Foods and how that works. But before getting into that, let's talk about your experience. Let's talk about how you really just found the CPG space. This is such an open-ended question, but talk to us more about your background and what got you inspired to even start in grocery from the humble beginnings, rise up the ranks, and eventually be a founder of a distribution company.
Wow, I'll try to answer that as efficiently as possible. I would start by saying I definitely didn't aim and shoot. I started in grocery. It was really, my wife now, girlfriend then, kind of was pregnant. I needed a job. I was young. I was probably, 17, 18 years old, and it was Mrs Gooch's at the time in Tustin, was opening, and my mom worked at a hair salon near there, and she was like, that place is taking applications, going there. So I didn't know anything about natural foods, didn't really know anything about grocery. Walked in there, put in my application. I actually was like on the maintenance crew for like the first 3 or 6 months of the job before I even got on the grocery team. And then it, got bought out, became a Whole Foods after about a year of being there. Eventually, like I said, I got onto the grocery team and really, spent a couple of years just, in the store, stocking shelves, learning about natural foods. And I ended up staying there for probably quite a few years. And then I ended up even transferring to the Northern California region with Whole Foods. Whole Foods back then, this is probably what, 90, like in 95, 96, 97, it was a really fun place to work. It was one of the funnest places to work. There was, they had stores in multiple regions. They were really good about, promoting within and I had a roommate that also moved with me from, Southern California to Northern California. He went on to go to the East Coast. And so like a lot of people were we used to joke, like kind of do this like Whole Foods tour, you would either go to different stores or you would, move to a region, or move departments or get promoted and try to work your way up. So, I started in the grocery business, like I said, natural foods. And then, after about 5-8 years of doing that, an opportunity. I was always interested on the vendor side, working with, on the grocery team, working with brands and suppliers. And so, you have a lot of communication, you make friends in the business. And so I had some friends that were, working for Odwalla Juice, and actually James, who works with us now, believe it or not,
Yep.
was, I've known James that long, and so shout out to James from High Touch. But yeah, I've known James that long. He actually gave me my first application. He was working at Odwalla, and I remember when he was telling me how the job was and how he basically, was a mini entrepreneur with his truck, able to pedal sell right off the truck. Odwalla Juice at the time was Naked, and Odwalla Juice were really, this was really Naked Juice's background here in LA, right? I mean, Odwalla Juice was a Northern California brand.
Mm-hmm.
And James just, he gave me an opportunity. I thought, wow, that seems like an amazing job. Like, you guys hiring? So I left the grocery business and became a route driver for Odwalla, and loved it. I mean, I'll tell you, I remember reading the employee handbook, and it said, I remember reading something to the extent of, as long as you stay within your territory, they pay you commission. You can sell as much as you can sell. And I was thinking, this can't be true. Like, if I stay out there and I sell whatever I can sell, I'll get paid. And it's funny. At the time, the company had two forms of compensation. You were either like a straight hourly employee, or you could be on commission, but you had to have sales of X for a certain amount of weeks before they would move you on to that program. But most of the team that I was on, they were hesitant to go on commission because, it was the unknown. Like, if you didn't sell a lot, you would get paid less. People were more comfortable with the hourly rate and being able to have, some guaranteed pay, right? So,
right. But not you. You
I
wanted
was
to go
like,
to
no way.
commission.
I
Hell yeah.
I had a baby coming, right? And I was
Yeah.
just like, sky's the limit. In
Right.
fact, in the early days, I remember even like bringing like a change of clothes and and like after my route, I'd
Like
be at like
changing in the
Bond.
bathroom or
I'd be like
something.
at a Bond or a Pavilions on route, and then I would literally like grab a couple bottles of juice and knock on the bagel shop in the same parking lot or the coffee shop and like drop off samples. And I remember asking for business cards, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't really do that." And I was like, "How am I supposed to get more accounts?" And
Right.
long story short, I ended up, I was a route driver for a minute. An opportunity came to be the district manager. So I got promoted, and then I didn't know a lick about operations, running a team, anything like that. Like I said, I had some grocery background, and and I love the route driving and being kind of independent. And then so I got an opportunity to manage the team, which at the time were my peers. And I remember the vice president at the time, after interviewing and after getting the job, I remember him telling me, this is going to be one of the hardest things you ever do in your career, managing your peers. And so it was tough. But like I said, we figured it out. We had an awesome crew. I remember that team. I mean, like I said, James was on that team, Jesse was on that team. So a lot of guys that still work with us. We've really stayed close over the decades, and
And
have been
that's what
doing this for a while. I
and
think
that's
that's
what's
what makes
really
us a little bit different, you know.
and that's what's really amazing is that such a tight knit team where you've known each other for so many years. Like, Jesse, who still works with you today, James, who reached out and gave you an opportunity at Odwalla. And like, I just see that, like when I see, you know, team members and like people in the company that have been together for 10, 15, 20 years, that's just a really great sign for that company and how tight knit you are and how you really respect each other and work really, really well together. And going into now the tough question, right? I want to talk about Greenshoots, right? Because
Yeah,
we learn a lot from our successes. We also learn a lot, I'm going to say the F word, failure.
yeah,
And no matter what, no matter good intentions, knowledge, there's always going to be something you miss or something that just falls through the cracks and then something fails. We're all entrepreneurs. We have to fail a couple times before we really succeed, which is what you're doing with High Touch. Greenshoots, for those that don't know, was a distribution company before High Touch, and they went to Whole Foods. They went also to the East Coast. We know that ultimately it was shut down, and then you converted that energy into creating High Touch, which is doing great right now. Tell us really just briefly what happened with Greenshoots. Why did it fail? What did you learn from that, and how did you parlay that into starting High Touch?
I mean, Green Shoots was, our opportunity to be entrepreneurs. When we started it, it was several of us it was probably about 10 of us that came from the Coke system. I think, we were sitting in national accounts meetings, and at the time, I think this was 2009 or 10, soda sales were declining. We were working for Odwalla Juice, which really was, the fresh juice and kind of the healthier division of Coke. They had just acquired Vitamin Water, Zico, Simply, the Simply brand, and I think the big aha to start Green Shoots was, Coke, arguably the biggest beverage distributor in the world, really they didn't have any cold chain distribution. They didn't have an ability to take perishable products to all the outlets that Coca-Cola has in their distribution network. So I think that was the white space. That was the original thought of starting Green Shoots, and we I think without it, I wouldn't be here today, and I'm appreciative of the partners that we had when we started it. It was some hard lessons we all learned, and definitely some expensive lessons. I think the reason it failed, Alex, was we were going too fast. And we were too spread out. I mean, I think you're in the business now. I think you could see how, some brands they're regional, some trends are regional. Some start and need validation in a certain market before you take it out too far. I mean, in 2010 and 11, really we were, that was kind of Blueprint was just born. That was one of the brands we had on our truck that were really, we went from selling this, smoothie for three something for a smoothie to this cold pressed juice that was
$11.
$9.99. I think the first cashew milk we put on the shelf out here was $13.99. I remember the buyer at Whole Foods was like, I don't think anybody's gonna buy it at $13.99. They said, well, we'll guarantee all the sales, and we spoiled quite a bit of product during that. We did, but we also spoiled a lot. And then and what worked. What was, what we saw was what might work here in LA wasn't necessarily resonating in, in Texas or in Boston, in the Mid Atlantic. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were in 7 Whole Foods regions at the time, or not 7. We were in, I think, like 5 at the time, and we were spread too thin, and it was really hard to get the anchor brands in the portfolio in certain regions to be duplicated in other regions, right? You get 15 brands you have as an anchor in the Southern Pacific region. You go to the Northeast and you're trying to start a distribution company with 5 brands on the truck. It's really hard to scale, and it's just it's a tough grind in the early days with distribution. You really need some anchor brands to help keep the lights on and put fuel in the trucks. Without that, it's really hard to do. So I think that was the main challenge. Is we were, it was exciting time because there was a lot of innovation in the space. I mean, if you think about, it's crazy. If you think 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of cold brew there was maybe, Stumptown, I think in 2010. And if you think about cold pressed juice, it wasn't even, people weren't talking about HPP. People didn't even know what HPP was in 2010. It was just, there was, it's been around, and technology's been around as long as pasteurization, but people, it just wasn't being utilized, especially in beverage. So there was all these new things happening at the same time. We're starting trying to do sort of like an Odwalla-esque DSD system, but with, highly innovative and highly perishable products and really expensive products. When you can't sell that product,
you're in the right region, like
if you can't sell
Southern
that
California,
product, that's a really expensive return. So I think, that was probably, all that helped to, all that ended up to be really, a lot of challenges that were hard to come by for a small team that was, and we were undercapitalized the whole time. I would also say that, we didn't, I know, with a brand, I'm sure you've had to go raise money and that's not easy. It's as a brand,
never ends.
It's very tough, right, Alex? Especially if it's not your expertise. Go try to borrow money to go buy trucks and run a distribution company. It's like, like nobody wants to take that risk. It's just they really don't. It's not as sexy of an investment, I guess you would say. So it's really tough. And then to be able to parlay into high touch, thankfully, I have my partner Chuck Casano. Without him, I met him. He was one of the brands we were distributing at Greenshoots, and he saw what was going on, and it was one of those things when we shut the company down. I was actually looking for work. I was like had to go interview and look for a job, and I was thinking, man, all the people we help, like, what do I do now? And he came calling, and he was like, hey, what if we, try to partner up and do the same thing Greenshoots is doing, but really focus here in Southern California? And I was like,
and there's a picture right there.
Can you get some capital? And he was like, yeah. And so we called all the retailers and we said, hey, we called our buyer contacts and I said, hey, is this valuable to you? If it is, I'll go try to raise some money and we'll take a run at this. And they were like, build it. In this region, there was so much innovation coming out of this region at the time. And like I said, a lot of it was coming in the form of like perishable and fresh and needed a chilled distribution. So so High Touch was born out of that.
Yeah, and definitely, I think and it's such an amazing. What I've always really respected about you, besides you're a hard worker, you're genuine, is that like it's so inspiring to hear the story where Greenshoots failed. There was a lot of learning lessons, and then you immediately parlayed that, use the word parlayed, into High Touch and making the company so successful. And I really feel like DSD is so essential. Like we have learned DSD when there's perishable product, fresh product, like Genius Juice, or like you showed, whether it's Lucky Jack Cold Brew or Mush, overnight oats. These are all perishable products, and you have to really manage the shelf and make sure that you have to make sure that you turn the product, make sure that the expiration dates are good, because every single week this product that's fresh product is high traffic areas that get blown out, and then High Touch just fills it up right away. And I love how you guys put it right on the shelf, just like instant, boom, no back door. It goes right to the shelf. You don't just stop and drop like other distributors like Unify and KE do. Nothing wrong with it, what they do, but you guys offer a premium service. I want to get into, because we have a few minutes here. I really got to rename the show to 20 Minutes of Genius, because every episode I go over, because these stories are just fascinating. Monika Coyle to me is one of the, premier. Like she is one of my favorite buyers for
awesome.
Whole Foods in the country. Like I've been working with other buyers, in other regions. Monika, for those that don't know, and sorry if anyone messages you after this asking about getting new products in or new items in, she is one of the lead buyers and purchasers at the Southern Pacific region for Whole Foods, located right in Glendale. Great buyer, cutting edge. She brings in a lot of new items. She loves working with you guys, and you guys have launched a lot of brands in Whole Foods, including Genius Juice. What is your advice on, again, we have like 2 minutes here, on getting into Whole Foods, kind of breaking down the wall, getting in touch with them? How do you stand out to get into Whole Foods? And one thing I will say, in mentioning that I remember this is a really very quick story. We were in three stores in the Whole Foods Southern Pacific region. once, and this is right around when you launched High Touch in March 2000. It was 2015, 5 years ago,
Yep.
actually, 5.5
Yep.
years ago. When Whole Foods got word that High Touch was going to carry Genius Juice, and you guys, with your relationship and just your track record, they greenlighted us into all 55 stores with High Touch as our partner. So huge kudos to you guys. Like, I don't think we would have gotten into Whole Foods as fast if it wasn't for High Touch. What's your advice to entrepreneurs that are just wanting to get into Whole Foods? How do you approach them? How do you do it the right way? Obviously, if you're perishable, partnering up with High Touch is a good move. But what's your advice to those entrepreneurs that are dying to get in and showcase their brand?
That's the $1,000,000 question, Alex. And I think, I would say do your homework and come with something unique. Come really, if you have, listen, the buyers are amazing. Monica's amazing. Most of the buyers in this space really, have a difficult job, right? There's a lot of innovation coming from different ingredients, different categories. And there isn't a lot of the space doesn't necessarily grow with the innovation, right? So you'll get, you look at the cold brew set. I mean, how many cold brew brands are there? And the space, Alex, is the same amount of allocation of space. Pretty much it has been for, I would say, over the last few years that the space
those
in a
fridges
particular
are not getting
category.
bigger.
If you look at a kombucha set or a cold brew coffee set, right? They're pretty much the same, square footage that they have always have been, but there's so many entrants every year. There's so many new products coming out. So if you really have something special that's differentiated and you have a proposition, I think you'll get a look. I think the product has to be special. I think your product was special. I think you would have made it with or without us. Quite frankly, the product. I mean, you're in other regions without us, and you're having some success. So the product's got to be unique. It's got to be different. Without that, it's tough. If you're coming with a Me Too type item, sometimes there isn't space. A lot of times these buyers have difficult decisions with. Sometimes it's one in, one out. They're bringing something in you. Something's got to come out of that set. There just isn't enough space for everything, and everything has its time and everything has its season. So, like I would just say, really, do your homework. Try to find that white space. And timing's everything. That's the other thing I would say, right? And that's something we don't necessarily always have control over. But Chuck and I have always said, one of the things we've tried to do in this business is really not force anything. When the timing's right, you'll feel it, and that's when you go hard, right? And because a lot of times you'll have good ideas, and I'm sure you as an entrepreneur with a brand, like there's so many times you've wanted to pivot, and but the timing might not have been right, and so you have to hold off or you have to wait. And sometimes you got to go quick, right? Before everybody else gets on it. I mean, if you think about how much oat milk is there now with dairy alt. I mean, there was, oat milk wasn't that big of an ingredient. It was soy and almond milk for decades.
Exactly.
Right?
Came out of nowhere. Oat milk.
Came out of nowhere. And it was like, wow, this is pretty creamy. This is a great coffee
Tastes
creamer.
better.
This would make, and then there's, tons of other nut milks and cashew and hemp milk, that we're selling these days. So, I mean, I think if you have something unique, you have a really good chance. So if you're dying to get into an amazing retailer like Whole Foods, really just do your homework. Try to bring something innovative and fresh to the space, and I think you have a great shot.
Exactly. From your mouth to God's ears, man. I mean, that is just sage advice for any entrepreneurs that are watching, that you're developing a brand. And again, just big shout out to the High Touch team, to you, to James, to Chuck, to Jesse, to Chris, and all the drivers. And I know you hired.
Man, you know them all, Alex. It's like
yeah, you guys are amazing. And I and we talked about Monika Coyle earlier. Like, big shout out just to Whole Foods for giving brands like us a chance. 5 years ago when we were super young and they believed in the concept and the product, and now we're expanding in Whole Foods and getting in more and more regions. So, but again, I really feel that we would not be here today with Whole Foods SoPac if it wasn't for High Touch and it wasn't for Monika. I think like having the right partners that believe in us from a very early stage is so important. And you guys like believed in that even before we had a label. You're like, I like this product. This is, I mean,
it was good.
Chuck,
it was good. It still is good.
yeah. And a really quick story, because actually Chuck is coming on as our next guest. We're taping it right after you. But Chuck found us at a cafe in the little 8-ounce bottle. And he emailed me And he's like, this is when we were in 3 stores for Whole Foods. And he emailed me, and I thought it was like, I didn't think it was serious. He's like, I found your product at this cafe. It's really, really good. I think we can get you into all 55 stores for Whole Foods because we have the relationship and the distribution. And I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank, I should say. And I didn't respond. I didn't respond to his first email. And then Chuck Casano, who's also an investor in High Touch and one of the partners, he emailed me again. He's like, "This is your last chance. If you don't respond to this email, I'm gonna move on." And we were honored that we were one of the first 3 brands on the High Touch truck. It was us, Forger, and what was the third one?
Revive and St. Benoit. St. Benoit milk at the time.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks, man, Czar, for burning the midnight coconut oil and being on our show at your office. I'm sure it's not the first time you've been at your office late, but thank you again for joining us on episode 22 of 15 Minutes of Genius.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Alex, and good luck with everything.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you as well. All right. So again, that's episode 22 of 15 Minutes of Genius with the founder and COO of High Touch Distribution. That's Czar Daniolco, the man himself. Big shout out to Manhattan Beach Studios. That's Mark over there. This guy right over here. Mark Anna, ManhattanBeachStudios.net for all your editing desires. And one more thing. Stay genius, my friends.
Genius for life. Coconut smoothies coming at you.